Lucian Streeter. I'm the ethics officer for Los Angeles World Airports. It's my 6th consecutive tenure.
My name is Mimi Fowler, and I'm with a company called SPI Global, which is a business process outsourcing company, and I'm head of marketing globally. This is my first year judging. This is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because I work very closely on different social media platforms and content management, and I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say and share, so thank you for those of you who today.
I'm Charlie Vance. I'm in the management department. I teach areas of international human resources, career management, performance management. And a few years ago, Mimi was my student here. I won't say how many few years ago.
The second meeting.
And another Mimi is, and I have some other, I'll try to be fair, not either too harsh or too easy on my current students who are presenting.
Okay, well, thank you again, as Dr. White mentioned, thank you for coming and meeting with us tonight. I met most of you, but I'll introduce Mariel again. This is Hamad, Danny, Cody. We have Bree sitting over here who will join us for the Q&A session later on, and Jennifer, who couldn't be with us tonight, but worked also very hard on this project. So, Facebook, you are representatives of Facebook executives, and to introduce who we are. So our team is a group of consultants for Ethos Solutions, which is an external consulting task force. You called us here today to examine a very important issue, especially in today's world with technology booming. The problem that we are observing is online privacy, and the question we want to answer by the end of tonight is Facebook, is your company in breach of online privacy? So you might think that's a very general question, and this is a very important and broad topic, so we'll only, let's say, address the very important issues that we felt were most relevant to the case. And if you have any other questions, or if you would like any development on what we've presented, you can ask us in the Q&A session. At the end of the presentation, we'll present some solutions that we think will benefit your company. And again, we can discuss that in the presentation. A bit of an overview of what we'll discuss tonight. I'm going to introduce your company and the relevant facts that have to do with online privacy and if your company is considered in breach of this privacy. We'll introduce some of the financial aspects relevant, again, to the topic. How does Facebook make money? How do they generate revenue? We'll talk about the risks involved of this issue, the ethical implications, the legal risks, finally, solutions, how it benefits your company, and looking forward as laws will change, users will change, and your company and your site will change. I'm going to pass you on to Muhammad.
Thank you, Madam. So these are things to consider while going through this presentation. Does Facebook have a duty to issue guidelines, the do's and don'ts of both their responsibilities and the user's responsibilities? Does Facebook need to be more upfront on how they are making a profit? What happens if the user's private information gets into the wrong hands? And what can Facebook do to protect their customer rights and interests? So this is Facebook's mission statement: to give people the power to share and make the world more open and connected. We think this mission statement is too vague and does not properly address the company's mission as seen from the viewpoint of the users. We believe that Facebook should restructure this mission statement to better be in line with these viewpoints from the user's perspective. I now hand you on to Danny to go on with the presentation.
Thank you. How you doing, everybody? So, how Facebook makes money. It's pretty interesting. Facebook actually makes money by getting user information, such as demographic information, from users that put it on their profile. They then put it into a data pool in which they take that information, like gender, age, network, and they take that information and they sell it to advertisers. And what they do with this information, advertisers target very specifically the people that they're going after. So, for instance, if you're into sports and you put that in your profile, you'll very likely see an ad for some type of sport. We'll get into that a little bit later. And this all generates revenue. There's two types of advertising. There's engagement advertising, and there is specific advertising. Specific advertising is very simple. You're able to do it yourself through Facebook. You basically write copy text, and you put your ad up there. It's reviewed by somebody on Facebook, and from that point, it gets put up probably within a day. It's very simple to do. You put a credit card in there. You don't have to talk to anybody on the phone. The engagement advertising is a little more complex. It involves surveys or interactive ads. It works similar, but it's a little bit harder to do, and you get a lot more bang out of that, I would say. And all of this leads to Facebook's revenue. So here's an example of a page that has some of this advertising examples on it. As you can see up here, the person who built this profile, or the user of this page, put that she lived in Santa Monica. Right here, they like wine, and next to it, they like fitness. And as you can see, the advertisements on the right over here show you clearly that she has an advertisement for a local club in Santa Monica, a fitness equipment, and wine. And all this stems from her putting that in her profile. So it's very, very targeted advertising. Next, I'd like to discuss basically how advertising is done in online. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry to aggregate, collect, and sell information online. And Facebook's taking full advantage of that. And it's a very growing part of the business. 500 million active users are on Facebook. That's 1/13 of the world's population. It's very interesting that the revenue in 2010, according to Bloomberg, was $2 billion. That really struck out to me because it's kind of hard to find information on how much they're making, but they're really doing pretty well in advertising. As you can see, they're highly targeted ads that they use, and they're estimated to do $1.4 billion in 2010. It's 70% or greater of the revenue. And also the ad revenues account for 25% of all the display ads served on the internet. So this is an example of the other side of it. When you're advertising on Facebook and you're doing it yourself, the self-service side of it, you basically fill out this area. And over here, you see the reach that you have potentially. And depending on the preferences you pick on this page, that reach will change. So for instance, if you put in just United States, you'll have a smaller pool. But if you add Canada, if you add Europe, you're going to get a lot more reach out of this. That also changes the dollar you pay. So the amount of money you pay goes down here. And that changes according to what you put up here in the preferences. So as you can see, they can make a lot of money if you decide to do advertising on this page. The next is the risks. This is actually the reason we're here. So there's ethical, financial, and legal risks. And this all stems from ethical risks. User privacy and trust is very important to sustain this community. If you violate this ethical area of trust and privacy, you could really suffer financial and legal implications. The financial implications are diminishing ad dollars, damage to business models, substantial reduction in revenue. If you do not pay attention to your users on the site and you violate their trust, they will start going away, and you'll have less people to get information from, which will equal less revenue because you'll have advertisers that won't be interested in being part of your site. The legal implications are also pretty bad. You could suffer government regulation, or you could have a lot more lawsuits. And as we'll discuss later, there's already been lawsuits that Facebook has faced. But there could be more in the future if privacy and trust are continued to be violated from the site. And now I'm going to pass it on to Cody.
Thank you very much, Danny. So I'm going to discuss legal issues. As you know, Facebook has faced a history of legal problems. Some of the past privacy issues have included the Beacon system, which was an advertising system which sent third-party data to Facebook. It was then published on the news feed. And so an example of this would be if you bought something from eBay, that item would show up on the news feed without the user's consent, making it effectively opt-out rather than opt-in. Common law privacy torts forbid someone from appropriating the name or likeness of another. In addition, information privacy laws cover the protection of information on private individuals from intentional or unintentional disclosure or misuse. Lane versus Facebook was a class action lawsuit which represented 50,000 members of the community against Beacon and Facebook. The settlement ended up terminating Beacon and also set up a $9 million fund which created a nonprofit foundation to promote online privacy. Data mining is a past, present, and future problem with the company. Facebook may collect all your info, and it claims in the clauses that it owns all this information. Security is also a problem, as 2 MIT students were able to download 70,000 profiles from the internet. And although they used advanced computer searching techniques, it was all done legally. Recent modification and upgrade to account settings. There was more information is being gathered by Facebook in the new upgrade. Additional emails, phone numbers, and other private information is being requested to aid in account recovery. However, a class action lawsuit was filed stating that the information Facebook is gathering is misleading, confusing, and disingenuous, as they believe that Facebook is collecting this information to sell it later to third parties. Continuing this trend will increase the risk of future lawsuits for the company. The privacy policy was last updated on December 22nd, 2010. It contains 6,000 words, and that would take the average person 30 minutes to read. There are 9 other terms and condition statements, and the point is that your terms and conditions are too long and too complicated for the average user to understand. Facebook states in these terms and conditions that they collect site activity information, access device and browser information, cookie information, as well as information from third parties. These third parties include applications which are bought through Facebook, games, which are a new trend, and also information from other websites. When you like a page, it links it up to the Facebook website, and that information is collected and kept by Facebook. Due to government backlash, Facebook has augmented their terms of service, but as you know, Facebook is only doing just enough to avoid public outcry. In conclusion, Facebook could face further public backlash, more lawsuits, or government regulation if they continue to use people's private information. Facebook has a legal responsibility for managing member security, and also a legal obligation to make it clear what they're using their private information for. Finally, as Facebook will face tougher laws concerning personal information as they become more global, making this problem even more of a problem right now and into the future. I'm going to hand it over to Hamad.
Thank you. Now I'll go on to the ethical issues with Facebook. First of all, Facebook currently has very complicated user agreements and privacy policies that, as Cody stated, are 6,000 words long, and these deter users from fully reading them. They also include a lot of jargon that users don't understand, and these agreements and policies release Facebook. These agreements and policies release Facebook from any legal liability arising from using user data to legal limits, of course, which are allowed under law. Facebook is aware of the implications of having complex legal notices, and you ask yourself the question, is this all ethical? Facebook also tracks user movements without the consent, without genuine consent from the users themselves. As you saw earlier, what Danny pointed out, Facebook creates personalized advertisements through using data such as your interests, your location, and also your status updates. Is this also ethical? Going on, Facebook, onto the more serious issue, Facebook's users' rights of privacy. Facebook needs to have a proper definition of the responsibilities of Facebook towards the responsibilities of the users. Facebook started off at first with a competitive advantage of being not like the sites of High Five and MySpace. They had more exclusive and private social interaction between the people. However, now Facebook asks the users for more private information than ever before, and it uses that information for financial gain through advertising. Most of them are optional, but there is a need to have a fine line between what they can use and what they can't use. They need to clearly inform the user of the risks and consequences of displaying data online. And who is this data shared with? So these questions arise. Does Facebook have the right to own the information posted? Can the users' identities really benefit Facebook and advertisers? Did users meaningfully consent to any endorsement? And did they get any consent from minors who are on their site? And I'll hand it on to Eva.
Thank you, Omar. So now we're going to present some solutions that we thought could benefit your company with regards to these privacy issues. First of all, we think that you should have a more transparent business model. You know it's a private company and you don't share it or publicly publish everything. But we feel that the more you give out to your shareholders, to your customers, the users, the more they'll trust you, the better reputation you'll gain. So we think a more transparent business model might help your company as a reputation. Clearly state privacy policies. This is what we've been talking about, legal and ethical implications. They're too complicated, they're too long. We realize that it might release you from some liability. But again, users are not reading them, and users cannot define the fine line between Facebook's responsibility and users' responsibility when it comes to their private information. If you clearly state your privacy policies, then you can say for sure that you have already outlined and users know what is their responsibility with their own information that they post and what is Facebook's responsibility as to what they do with that information. So one example of this is provide an opt-in, opt-out, or a do not track option. Give the users the option to opt out of their information being used by these advertisers. Give them do not track options so that wherever they go, on any site they go, any purchase they make, advertisers won't know this and cannot target them for their ads. Distinguish between user responsibility from Facebook's responsibility. As Facebook's users, they don't know what you do with their information. They don't know where it goes, how it generates revenue. If you let them know and you give them the choice, then you've clearly outlined this fine line between both responsibility. Another example, implementing an internet security tool. That's another way to gain the trust of your users. Implement a certain security tools such as, I'm sure you can think of extra companies or software that can provide extra security for the private information. That way MIT students can't hack in and gain access to user information. Finally, another example, notifying users of account modifications. A lot of credit card companies do this. If they feel that a user's private information is at risk or if it's been leaked out, they will notify you right away. They'll send you an email. They'll ask you to change your password. So implementing some sort of extra security can help the users feel safe in providing their information. And this is an example. We're not program experts, but you can always add a opt-in, opt-out option either at the top or at the bottom when you're creating your Facebook, so that the users have the option of, okay, I say I live in this city, but I don't want people to know that, except for whoever's viewing, my friends who are viewing my page. So those are some examples of what you can do to implement a better security. And how does this benefit you? How do these solutions benefit your company right now and in the future? So first and foremost, you're building a better reputation, a better ethical reputation. We feel that this, especially in today's world, ethics is becoming a growing topic for companies and representatives such as yourselves, and we want to make sure that you're at the forefront of this trend. Mitigating legal exposure. There are many lawsuits regarding privacy, regarding ownership. 2 days ago, there was a recent update from someone claiming to have owned 50% of your business from when Facebook was created in Harvard through Mark. Again, another lawsuit was with the Winklevoss twins, who again sued Facebook for ownership, got a settlement, and they want to take back that lawsuit so that they can maybe get more out of it because of the valuation that you guys have done. Reduce long-term financial risks. We understand that you might deter from some of these solutions because you don't want to lose revenue now. Advertisement is your largest source of revenue. If you implement higher security and don't allow advertisers access to some private information, you'll lose money today, but you'll save in the future, and that's more important to keep your business running in the longer term. Finally, and I think most importantly, maintain competitive advantage over your competitors. You successfully beat MySpace out of service, which nobody no longer uses. As he explained earlier, MySpace was out of control with their information, with their privacy. They had no security tools whatsoever, and Facebook was founded on the basis of privacy and kind of seclusion, or where only Harvard students had access, and then it grew to only universities. Now everybody has access to it. Anybody can sign up, including minors. So we want to make sure you maintain this competitive advantage, and you want to watch out for your largest shareholders, the users, and make sure that what you do in your business and operations are in their best interests. Looking forward, some examples that I want you to consider, some of the projects going forward that could definitely have an impact on a user's private information. RFID purchases, so those, for example, when you are purchasing online that have a certain ID reference number, it's connected to your Facebook, and anybody can see what you bought, when, how much, what are the trends, and marketers and advertisers can definitely target you for sales and ads with this tracking device. Selling, again, Facebook is starting to implement sort of an eBay page where you can sell your car, your clothes, anything, books, through your Facebook instead of going directly on eBay. So it's kind of becoming a central hub for almost all activity. Health records, again, some people might post their health records online. Another one is employers and discrimination. Can you discriminate from an employer's aspect on any information that could be up there? New do not track laws. Although they are not implemented now, government regulations will increase these laws, and you want to make sure that you're at the forefront and make sure that you don't have to make substantial changes to your operations once these laws are implemented. So right now, if you don't have a certain option for users, do not track option, in the future when these laws come out, you'll have to implement them anyways. Why not do them now and take action now, especially since you know social media is a big problem with lawsuits and governments today. You'll be at the forefront, again, maintaining your competitive advantage. Finally, and most importantly, like I said, your users are your biggest shareholders. You would not be in business today without them. If they turn on you, if they don't trust you anymore, there goes your business. User demands, like some of the lawsuits that have already occurred, they don't want all of their information being public or being available for advertisers. Giving them the option to choose and clearly stating what your responsibility and what you do with their information, again, establishes trust and meets their demands. So we want to make sure that you listen to them, learn from your lawsuits, learn from what can happen in the future, and you'll stay in business. So now we'll answer any questions. That was a brief overview of the issues we thought were most relevant, as well as some solutions we thought could help. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I'd like to start with one of the central issue here. Whether or not we're really invading anyone's privacy. The way I see it, we here at Facebook make it possible for people to develop friendships and relationships and stay in touch. And the people who subscribe to the service put up all the information. And they freely put up all the information. And the website that the friend page, the page that you showed, you know, where someone lives that they like to work out and they like wine, which is not exactly terribly personal. So I'm puzzled about why there's such an issue of potential invasion of privacy, because it seems that, first of all, people are putting it up themselves, and secondly, it seems fairly innocuous.
Well, when you set up a user page from the beginning, your default of your privacy settings are set at for everybody to view. That's really the issue that we see. People don't know that basically letting their information out there for most people to see. You really have to go in there to change it. And if that's the default setting, I think that's a little bit wrong if you're using that information to not only advertise, but you're also putting that information out on the web where it could be searched by Google, anybody can find it. We saw a big problem with that ethically. And also from a user standpoint, they may feel that their trust is being violated if they don't know of this. And that's would cause somebody to leave the site possibly.
Let me add to this. Facebook is basically, they're putting it in like non-physical form. Say for instance, I ask each and every one of you for your ID. You can put every single thing on your ID there, your name, your height, your weight, your age. It's all things you put on Facebook, which are made public at first. You know me. I'm one of your friends. You'd give me your ID, that's okay, right? But you don't know any one of them. Would you give them your ID? Is that okay for them to have the information? What people don't realize is there are more than just that information on Facebook that you give other people. And Facebook and other people can see that information and use that information to benefit themselves and to advertise towards you.
And just to finalize that answer, as you saw in our slide, yes, you might write your city down, but there are a lot of other operations or ways to communicate and publicly post what you're doing. There are a lot of phone apps that will check you in so that everybody on your Facebook knows that you're at Starbucks around the corner. What if you have a husband that happens to be violent and has been looking for you and found you on Facebook and comes and something happens, something dramatic? There's a lot of ways, it's so vast that there's a lot of ways that this can turn wrong. So even something simple as Santa Monica, that might be fine, but there are a lot of other ways and a lot of other information that you're giving that you might not think that other people can see, but they can, that could be a problem.
I think a big issue here is that my not knowing potential kinds of issues, I put myself in harm's way. You're selling me a product that puts myself in more, in greater risk. A big area that I'm aware of in professional recruitment and employment is a lot of recruiters serve for much.
Charlie, stay in your role as a Facebook person. You're going off,
Yeah.
you're going back to who you really
Thank you.
are.
Well, I think this is why we need to follow
Thank you.
their advice, because we could suffer some serious lawsuits. We're selling a product and not giving the information that people need to use it safely. Again, they put all these images up, and if they can find out, and eventually they will find out, that they didn't get that job because of the pictures that they posted. And they didn't know what they were able to do to avoid that.
I'm unclear on the connection, though, between what the problem that you're addressing and how it's really affecting our company. And I saw lawsuits that were from other competitors. I'm not quite clear, maybe went through it, lawsuits from consumers and Facebook individuals. And are we tracking complaints? Have those complaints increased?
There are actually a lot of class action lawsuits.
Supporting this?
Yeah, I mean, Cody can speak better, but there's a lot of class action lawsuits
Yeah.
by customers to
And
Facebook.
in addition to that, in our research, we found that a lot of people are actually considering deleting their Facebook page, and it's been tracked that on Google, how to delete Facebook page, how many people are searching for that is increasing. So it's kind of clear to us that, yes, it's okay for users to share, but the problem here is that they don't know the impact of what they're sharing. They don't know if they check in at Starbucks, like, what does that really mean, you know? Some people don't even know that those display ads on the side are because of all the information that they put in their profile. So the problem is not that they're sharing, or they want to share, or we want them, Facebook wants them to share, but that it's unclear where the information is going. That's the problem.
Okay, so I have a question. So there are companies out there that are database companies that anybody can go and log on to and pay whatever fee, $20 for a 24-hour pass, and get address information, phone number information, marital status information, driver's license, and legal information on you. And at Facebook, we don't request or require any of that information to be put on our site. So if we don't request or require that, and people can go out and just simply purchase that data, users of the internet, how are we more responsible for controlling non-personal private information as somebody else? I mean, is it more of the subjective, non-personal, what you have for breakfast kind of stuff? Because the advertising that we sell is personalized one-to-one. It's companies who go in there and say, we're offering you something that's relevant to you. We're offering you a discount or a special or whatever on something that you've expressed interest in that you like and it's relevant. And because of the advertising approach is very one-to-one, their advertising rates go up. People are interested, it's relevant to them, it's not irrelevant ads that are going out. So it's kind of a two-pronged question. There's the non-personal private information that we don't require that they can purchase somewhere else. And then there's also the one-to-one that if it's things that they're expressing interest in. Because also, for example, Ibecc, okay? Back in 2009, during the holiday season, 59% of purchasers on eBay either read a review of somebody who already purchased the product or looked for an endorsement on a social media channel. So people want that kind of feedback and that one-to-one. So what are your thoughts? Let's take it on the first question of the data availability.
Well, good question, very good question. We really aren't comparing ethical situations of other companies here in terms of database mining and stuff like that. We're really focusing on Facebook on the simple fact that it's okay to share, like Bree said, but where they're violating or where you're violating is you're not letting people know you're doing that. They're discovering this for themselves. And that's really where the problem is. If you were telling them, if it were clearly stated and weren't buried in the T's and C's that you were using this information to advertise, you'd probably be a lot better off and there wouldn't be as much of an ethical issue, or actually there wouldn't be an ethical issue in that sense. So that's kind of where we're coming at. And the example we have, we put it clearly stated on the page, kind of solves that problem. I know that doesn't answer your full question, but that is kind of the context in which we're talking about here. We're really trying to make sure that users do not get offended when they find out that their information is being put out there, it's being used as advertising mechanisms to sell products, which they might not be upset about if they do. So that's really it's giving them the control.
Yeah, giving them the choice up front, I think, is very important because you're right, some people do want to see those ads and they like it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so relevant to me, I'm clicking on that, But then there's other people that don't want to share that information. So we think it's important to just at least give the option and at least be upfront about it.
And as you go global, it's even more of an issue. If you've ever dealt with global situations, you'll know that privacy issues globally are huge. A lot more stringent. You'll come across a lot more legal issues. So you have to, I know that we're comparing this to a global situation and you're not in that situation completely yet, but you will run into those problems if you continue to not be clear about using information for advertising.
And I would actually argue that, in line with what Mimi said, that our users actually are more aware of the fact that they're putting their personal information up because they have to do it voluntarily. They actually have to make a positive effort to publish that information. Whereas, for example, you can find probably a Google search on any one of us by name will find telephone numbers, address information, employment information, things that I did not actually publish.
I'd like to ask a question. You as a Facebook representative, do you have a Facebook page?
I do.
What's the main reason that you went and put your information on Facebook?
Basically to network with friends and family.
Network with friends and family. Okay, and when you subscribe to, let's say, an email feed or so, a database, and your email gets put onto that, information gets put on that database, what is the main reason you subscribe to that?
Well, I'm talking about things I did not subscribe to.
Oh, yes. No, but what I'm trying to say is that as to the question of whether Facebook uses the advertising and whether the database, these two things, it's that Facebook people usually go there to network. They don't go there with the intent of having advertisers come towards them. Like, I personally have a Facebook page. I went there because I have a lot of friends back home and I'd like to network with them. But seeing these ads that I did not opt into, that makes me think that I've been put on such a database that, well, if they send me a text message on the phone from a database, I'd be like, I need to get off this. But it's two different things. I've been put on that for basically just for the advertising purposes, and I went into this just for the social networking. I didn't agree for the advertising purposes. They need to distinguish whether or not a person wants this when he gets into this at first. If that makes any sense, I think.
Basically, individuals, like there's people out there that like it, like Bree said, and it's okay. I mean, it's fine if you're enjoying it. You put that stuff on there freely. You may understand that yourself, working here, and maybe people that you may know that you've communicated this to. But what we're getting at is the vast majority of people don't know. And our research has led us to believe that most people aren't aware of the fact that this is going on. We talked to countless people, did kind of some survey of people we know, and they were surprised to know that their information was being used to advertise. And when was it? The last thing I want to bring up is basically the way that this works, the way that they sell the information on there. No, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Okay, you're doing great.
No,
My next question then is, what's the harm or the risk of any of our users on Facebook seeing an ad that they didn't ask for?
The whole website is built on trust. So if they feel like their privacy is being invaded, then there might be some reason for them not to participate in the website as much or not want to share as much if they make that connection, you know, that their information is being shared and that's why they're receiving the ads. And like we said, people could potentially leave the site altogether, which in the end lowers the amount of data that you have to pool to sell to advertisers. So it's just kind of this whole thing that's built on trust and people sharing everything. And yes, it is their choice, but we just really want to focus on being upfront, like I said before, and making sure that they know what they're doing so that they don't begin not to trust you and not to share their information, and then this all leads to, you know, other risks down the road. But
And Bree brings up a very interesting point. It's a very fickle business, and we've seen the fickleness of the business through MySpace. I mean, that failed fast. And it may not have been because of these exact same reasons, but people left anyway. And they continue to go down. I mean, they're losing, last I checked, I want to say in the last year, they went down like 18, 19%. That's a staggering amount of people. I mean, they were the #1 company at one time. So it can happen. It's definitely not out of
Facebook went down?
No.
MySpace.
I didn't
MySpace.
see that in my report here.
Sorry, I meant MySpace.
So what's the difference in our revenue, though, if we change our policy to, from what it is now, all our advertisers pay us for a number of hits. If all of a sudden we start telling them, all the users, well, we're going to ask your permission now, it's going to be hard for our marketing department to get those kind of advertisers. That eats our revenue. How do we address that issue?
not all of the ad revenues are from click-throughs, aren't they, the dollar amount is based off of what information they want?
It's based off of how much you put in, yeah. So as much as, yeah, the more targeted they get, the bigger the.
So the more targeted the advertiser gets, the more money Facebook makes. So it's not just about the click-throughs, because the click-through rate, I think, is less important or makes less revenue than how much they get from how targeted the ads are, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So
It is based on the click-through. I mean, you only pay what you click on. Definitely, you do pay what you click on. But I know what you're trying to say. Basically, you won't lose. You can still target a lot of people. The pool shouldn't decrease that much. Yeah, but people should still opt in. The point is letting them know. I mean, doing the right thing and being upfront and saying, hey, we're doing this. And I don't feel a lot of people would opt out. I mean, you're a good example of that. You just said that you didn't mind being tested. You said also that having a couple ads up there doesn't really hurt anybody. And it's true. So I believe that most people will not opt out of this.
we also mentioned before, too, that we know that there might be a loss of some revenue at the beginning if you do change these policies. We haven't calculated that because we were kind of just looking at this as an overview. But we feel that the risks definitely are a lot worse than doing this on the front end. From the legal implications, if you're getting sued, you're having settlements, if people leave the site, it's lowering the amount of data that you have in your pool. So we feel like it would be better for you to do this on the front end, and in the end, you would lose less revenue that way.
But what about a middle ground, which is that if we, instead of doing something that, this is a very prominent opt-in, opt-out kind of thing, if people get cranky about, the ads popping up, why can't they just go into their profile, remove information, and then, they won't get the ads because we won't be targeting them? Wouldn't that be a reasonable solution?
Well, due to the tracking options, even if you remove your information from the profile, as long as it's been there once, they have a record of it. So even if I have a picture up there once and I remove it later, Facebook will still have it saved. And I think it takes a certain amount of years for you to clear out your cache or clear out all history of information. So,
in addition to that, a lot of users don't even know how to change their privacy settings or where to go because it's buried so far deep in the site, and you have to click on so many things to make sure that your stuff isn't getting shared. It's not just one button. I mean, there's like many options that you can click through. Do I want to share my photos? Do I want to share my networks? So it's just really complicated, and users don't know how to do it.
So I kind of want to switch the topic just a bit and ask you why you think that Facebook should do a lot of these things when we're really not that much different from a lot of other sites out there. For example, you've probably heard of Google Buzz, right? And there was a big stigma with when they basically started exposing people's contact information. Well, Google's still here, right? I mean, nobody left Google. They offer something of value, and so do we. So why do you think that, something that is actually not as intrusive as what a lot of other companies out there are found to be so damaging?
You're a lot closer to MySpace than you are Google Buzz. That's what I'll venture on. Go ahead.
But Google Buzz, as you know, they had an opt-out option when they first came in. They just took all your contact list and they sent everything, all your status updates towards them. They're more like a Twitter application. But when it comes down to it, you guys say revenue. Revenue wouldn't be there without the users. You need the users' loyalty, customer loyalty. As we pointed out earlier in the presentation, people are looking up now ever more than before that how to delete the Facebook accounts, and you're losing more and more people.
Have you actually compared the ratio of those lookups as compared to our expanding user base? I mean, you're talking about an absolute number as opposed to a ratio of how many searches there are per user. We're gaining users all the time. Are we losing more or are we gaining?
You are gaining more, but the point with that statement was that people might not have been Googling this at all before, and they are now, so what does that mean?
Well, you're always going to have some attrition.
but that rate is increasing. The rate.
Right, but is it increasing in proportion to our user base?
We would have to look further into that. We don't have those
That'd be
details.
good.
Yeah, that is a good.
But what I can tell you also in our research that we saw is Google is actually working on some sort of do not track or opt-out option currently. And also in February, there was a do not track bill introduced into Congress. It hasn't been passed yet, but it's something that's up and coming, as we can see just from those two facts that I just told you. So we think since Facebook is a market leader and they've kind of been on the forefront in everyone's mind, that they should be the first to kind of establish this trend.
And I'd also like to add to this that Google is coming out, I believe it's Google coming out with Circles right now. It's a new social networking site, if I'm not mistaken, it might be them. And this hasn't come out yet. So to anticipate what's going to happen, they might have a better privacy policy to anticipate and gain more customer loyalty towards Facebook. Say they come out with that, people will move over there and forget Facebook. And I believe if the Facebook account hasn't been used for a certain number of, let's say, maybe a year, it will get automatically deleted, and people will all go to Circles. So with that upcoming social networking site, you will lose a lot of people if you don't meet the standards and gain the loyalty again from the user's perspective.
We're asking you to be an ethical translator. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thank you for the question.
Another topic is social media monitoring. And there are companies out there like Radian6 and Radish who consolidate what's being said on different social media platforms. So what they do is they consolidate that information on, let's say, our advertisers' products and services, provide that feedback back to the advertiser, which empowers the advertiser to go back to these people on those social media platforms, ours included, and counter any negative information that's being put out there. Somebody's dissatisfied with their product or service, somebody's not happy with, what they've received, and counter that. And through social media, which we are one, allow them the opportunity to kind of right a wrong. Or so if there's an issue of building trust, this is a way that actually our advertisers regain trust of their dissatisfied customers. So is that anything that you guys have a concern about or a position on from an ethical standpoint? Because it's our advertisers monitoring what's being said on people's walls and the communications that's being used to promote products and services.
If I'm not mistaken, Radian 6, because Facebook's a closed network. Twitter, blogs, other online media sites are easy to monitor, but Facebook, e-tail sites, a lot harder to monitor. And if you have, especially if your security settings are closed, you can't get in them. But ethically, I don't think that's a problem if they are finding people that are upset. They're telling them, hey, go to customer service. You have a bad product or bad experience. Hey, we can take care of you. I think those are positive things. And
do you think that's less invasive than posting an ad on somebody's Facebook page? Because you're actually engaging them in conversation.
It's true.
Right?
It's a good question. Well, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think it's more of an ethical issue if they were doing something malicious with that opportunity. If they were going in there spamming people against their will, or not wanting that to happen, I think that would be an ethical problem. But I don't think it's ethical. It's an ethical issue for people to try to go in there and take care of their customer. I know it's using the same type of system, but if you look at it just from an ethical standpoint, I think that you're not violating ethics because your intention is good. You're trying to help. You're not. If you're doing it for devious reasons, then yeah, there's an ethical problem. But that's for the person doing it to decide, right? I mean, if your company is going in there and acting like they're helping the customer, when in reality they're just really trying to upsell you on something, your intentions are wrong, and I think you're violating a code of ethics there.
I have a real concern about our business model allowing an opt-out feature. Like I've been in several things that basically, you mind if we share your email address? I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'd love to have a zillion people send spam to me every day. And so almost kind of like a reaction, the consumer would obviously want to opt out. At least that would be my impression. So I'm concerned about, and if so many opt out, that's going to destroy the advertiser's incentive to want to do business with us because there's not going to be anything.
I can answer that, and as Director of Marketing, you might have some good ideas, but look at it this way. What if you are a new user or even an existing user, and this is the new tool that you implement? It's opt-in, opt-out, do not track. So what you'll do is create maybe a 5-minute tutorial that everybody has to read, meaning they cannot access their account until they read or view this little video. This is for new users and current users. So they go on their Facebook, this new little video comes up. It's a tutorial on their new and improved privacy policies. So during that, they'll not write 6,000 words that a user can't read within 5 minutes, but they'll outline as much information as you're willing to provide, outline what Facebook does with their information, and in this tutorial, as the video is going along, show them where the account settings are, where the privacy settings are, so that the user knows where to go to change these if they want. You might not want to give them the option right away, but so that they know where their information is going and how they can go and click and opt out. That way, you have it right when you sign in and you're giving them the choice. So that might be an idea for a marketing aspect. It might be a user's instinct to say opt out right away, but now depending on your business model and how the revenue goes, you're a private company, so you know best. But you can always explain or break it down by, okay, this information might be targeted for this general pool of advertisers. Click opt out if you want, and just kind of break it out to different aspects of their personal information. So that's a 5-minute tutorial, new and current users can see. And that's just an idea, but I'm sure as Director of Marketing.
Just to add to this, exactly what you said. You can like you said, break it down to things like, say, like you see things to do in Santa Monica. Okay, I might live in Santa Monica and I might want to know things to do. I might like new restaurants and I see like deals for restaurants. There's a lot of people who go into things like, there's this new thing like the social, what's it called?
100 things to do in LA before you
The
die.
social thing, and they give you really good deals like 60, 70% off. I might want to know that. But I don't want then Facebook to go into a website and say, hey, this guy's single, targeting you with match dating agency. I don't want that part of it. So, like you said, it can be broken down to like, if you want the
Demographics.
that's single, you're, let's say 25, you like food. So they can opt in and opt out of each different things based on your profile.
And to add to that, I mean, from an advertiser standpoint, it's actually, you can be positive. I mean, if you're giving the user a chance to opt in or out, that's a way more qualified lead than if you're just getting anybody on the site, right? Because if you're just going after anybody that's on the site, you could get people that aren't interested. They don't even want to see your ad. You know, they're going to be bothered by it. They may even be turned off and not want to do business with you because of it. If you get people to opt in, I mean, you may have a more, more energetic group of people willing to actually try out the service. So from an advertiser standpoint, it might actually be more valuable.
You can lower the costs. Advertisers can have their costs lower because they don't have to pay for as much click-throughs, while increasing the chance of gaining revenue because the people that they are targeting opted in. So in turn, Facebook might even want to charge a little more, and advertisers will go for it because they know that who they are targeting is in fact interested in that product and wants to be informed of that product.
I wonder if there's a simpler way to approach this, which is that if people are, we make it plain that we're offering this option, but it isn't so much an opt-in, opt-out as if people want an ad-free site, they pay a fee. It's such a popular service now that I'm wondering if maybe the best thing to do is to say, if you don't like the ads, you can pay for example, with Pandora as an example, you can pay for not getting the ads. What about doing that? And that takes care of consent, it takes care of privacy, and we make money off of it.
That would have to be tested first because you have 500 million users.
Yeah, a lot of people, we can get money from an annual ad-free.
Right, but that might not.
$1 a month would pay for a lot of privacy.
You betcha.
Even there, you can see it as that, like, they're using your information, but if you pay, we won't use your information. So it's basically holding your information for ransom.
Yeah,
Oh, we have marketing people that spin this so that it's a good thing.
It's a free service, right? That it's a voluntary sign-up, right? So even being a Facebook member is something that's a voluntary thing, right? So if you want it for free, right, then you consent to some of your information and what you publish to be used to drive our business model. If you want it not used, then you pay a little bit of a premium.
Well, I agree, and as long as you make that clear, then ethically you're not violating it.
So one of the things that you should realize is that the reason that Facebook has been so successful is because essentially they make things easy. Okay, and as you were saying, making it easy to understand our privacy policies and how to control your privacy. I think that that's something that we could definitely address and make it easier for people to control their privacy, and that would then give us a competitive advantage. The other thing also, though, is that social media and the power of social media is something where you were talking about creating videos for how to control things. Those are already all over YouTube, right? The users basically teach each other. We don't really have to do that, and that's an expense, right? So if we were able to actually just give users, exactly, it's like, Google does this with Google Forms, right? Right? So, the users, basically the communities, they teach each other. We don't have to do that. So, another thing about ethical leadership, right? When you're talking about reputation, and understand that a lot of what we do could be construed as negative, but there's also a lot of positive that happens. And again, this is the power of social media. It's really about what our users do with the technology. If you look at what just happened in Egypt, right? Facebook was a huge enabler of that revolution, right? We didn't plan for that. It just happened, right? Our users took the technology and they used it for something that it wasn't actually intended for, and created something that was a huge win for us, right? So the power of the users in the community and what they do with the technology is really something we can't control. And so the negative aspects of what they do with it also, I mean, we can do our best to control what they do that's negative, but we don't want to limit their innovation and their use of the technology.
And I don't feel that this will limit it. And I think, and you say, they have a lot of power, and you don't want that power to turn against you. That's really the issue we're getting at. And it's a small fix. The risks are minimal in terms of doing something like this, giving them a little bit of control. And like you said, it speaks to their the ease of the site, or your ease of the site, and how you guys have designed it. It kind of fits right in there with that ideology. So I feel that it's a good solution for you guys.
And even like looking forward, like I said, with the Google Circles, there's always that next big thing. So you have to be proactive, anticipate what the users want, what they think about their privacy, and they might address that. You as Facebook might not know the secrecy behind the Google Circles, and you need to know what exactly are they offering the clients, the users. Maybe they are offering these opt-out options with the upcoming roles that we discussed. Maybe they are doing this. It's just to keep that user base at Facebook and not have them transfer over to Circles, because right now there's no one on Circles. And everyone, like many people I know, have Google accounts, which can easily be transferred over to this social networking site. And like how many people are moving from Facebook to Twitter now, right now, they might fully move from Facebook to the Circle site. And this is something that you need to see in advance before it happens.
Maybe one or two more questions and then we'll.
I always have plenty to say.
No, very interesting questions. These are good.
I can go on forever.
Yeah, these are good questions.
One or two more, and then we'll break it.
Yeah, well, I guess I was just thinking, I don't want to use a story yet, but, we set this up as a social network, but clearly our revenue comes from our advertisers. So have you considered whether we have a contradiction in our purpose in terms of creating a social gathering for the individual, but clearly there's a contradiction of some kind, which we benefit from, which we don't necessarily not want to benefit from, unless we take our elder statesman's suggestion of paying into the cause. So have you considered how we look at the individual, what the notion of individual versus community is in this relationship?
Like a sense of revenue of the individual, or what's
Yeah, I think that I think you're saying very politely that we're deceiving our customers, right? And we use that word, but earlier you said, we've not told them our privacy policy is too long, it's too dense, it's 6,000 pages or 6,000 words, or no one knows how to set up privacy settings. They're unclear what they're sharing. So just going back to our original philosophy of why we put this together, is for the individuals.
There's definitely,
for the consumer.
yes, there's definitely a contradiction, which is why we felt that your mission statement was too vague. Your mission statement wanted to build, again, like you mentioned, a site that gave power to the people to share knowledge, to share their information, yet your driving force for keeping the business alive is revenue from advertisers. Users don't necessarily know that. One of our solutions was a transparent business model. Let them know, or maybe develop your mission statement. I wouldn't necessarily say we want to increase our revenue with ads, but giving a more detailed or a more sincere mission statement might bridge that contradiction. We all know that business thrives on revenues and keeping it going, but you're not going to have those revenues without the users. And you want to focus on the individual, of course, and make sure you bridge that contradiction, like I said.
Listen to what they want, yeah, for sure. And I think some of these lawsuits have kind of shown that some people aren't happy. Not everybody, but some people. And you don't know how that's going to grow or not. So my interpretation of focusing on the individual is listening to what the user wants, paying attention to what they're asking for. And I think we've seen enough out there to let us know that they need some kind of clarity with this situation.
And what you're losing in revenue from having people up top, you can gain, like I said, in loyalty and have them with your new idea of like the Facebook credits that just came out. People can use Facebook credits, can buy this Facebook money, which you get a percentage of, which is they're ethically correct if you tell them, like what PayPal does, like what Google does. They take a percentage of that and have them buy things from the stuff you sell on Facebook.
There are other opportunities for revenue. A big looking forward idea is going international. You've already gone internationally, but a lot of countries in Europe and Asia have a lot stricter privacy laws, especially France, China, Middle East. And that's, I mean, China alone is the world's largest population. You could be hitting a lot more users. And so even though your short-term analysis might say that your revenues will go down if you put stricter laws, but you might hit a lot more users going abroad, going to China, going to India. And they will, governments, it's a government-regulated country, they will accept, they'll be more accepting of your operations in their country because you have pretty strict laws. That you'll hit more users, they might allow some type of advertisement, if it's not really facing security threat or against government regulations, you just hit how many billion people. So that, in the long term, may increase your...
They're already in India and China too. I mean, China, they banned it, but you can still get there by going through different IPs. So people are legally getting on it. And in Europe, they're on there. But the advertising is a bit different, and I think some risk is being taken there. It's a whole other issue, I would say, but you can spend a whole other presentation on that part of it. But there's a little bit of...
In that case, I'd like to ask us to shift gears and wind it down. And I'd like to ask the judges then to move from question and answer to offering feedback. And as I said, the more specific you can be about what you can identify as the strengths of the presentation, and anything particular about the way it could be improved would be appreciated. Charlie, shall we start with you?
I think it's very clear to me how you're able to stimulate a lot of interest and excitement about this. And I think you cover the bases really well in ethical, legal, and perhaps a little bit more on financial implications. To me, one